This is Perfect English Practice Podcast.
Hi, Sue.
Hi there, Chris. How are you today?
Very well, thank you.
Well, I just want to tell our listeners that we've got a very nice Instagram account where we put little clips on of our podcasts and sometimes quizzes. And just to say, we've had a very big success on a particular Instagram post about a SWOT.
What is a SWOT?
Well, I was going to ask you exactly that question. And it's had a really big response, a very big success. And I think it merits a podcast.
Yeah.
So my question to you is, first of all, start us off. What is a SWOT?
Okay, so a SWOT is basically, it stands for 4 words, which SWOT, which is strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats.
Okay, absolutely. And it's usually presented in a kind of a square?
It's like a window. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and some of the things are internal and some things are external.
Can you expand on that? What does that mean?
Yeah, like, for example, opportunities are more external, as are threats, whereas strengths and weaknesses are internal. Mm-hmm. So in terms of language...
well, I was going to come on to language.
Okay.
Because usually a SWOT, I've seen it a lot in classes where we do like a business SWOT or it's a project.
Yeah.
Basically...
For ideas.
Advantages and disadvantages of various things.
Yeah.
But if I had never seen it applied to a language until I saw your blog.
Oh, right.
And this has inspired us. So tell us about the language SWOT.
Well, if I take it one by one, strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats, well, you could say that anybody who's learning English as a second language already has a strength in as much as they already have learned a language which is their native language. Mm-hmm. It doesn't mean that, it gives them a huge head start, but at least they know how a language works in terms of grammar, etc. They've already done it. However, what they generally do is they approach a second language in a completely different way, and it's very, very sort of counterproductive in a way, because they almost approach a language as if it were a science, which it definitely is not. Mm-hmm. A weakness could be that you have problems listening. You could have, you could have an actual real listening problem anyway. I often say that people have strengths if they are musicians, for example, because they can listen and they can, well, it's deeper than that. They can actually hear things. They can hear the music of the language. And musicians are generally quite good. If somebody has learned another language, like if a French person has learned Spanish, for example, they've also got another head start. Yeah.
Yeah. So what about another strength for learn as a language SWOT?
A strength as a language SWOT, well, it could be age, maybe.
Okay.
It could be.
Okay.
Now, we have to be careful with this because people often say, I'm over 50, so I can't learn a language. It's totally rubbish. Mm-hmm. What it does mean is that, when you're 20 or in your 20s, your brain is like a sponge. It just pricks stuff up. It doesn't mean that you can't do the same at 50, but it means you're going to have to put a hell of a lot more effort in.
Yeah. In fact, one of the strengths that is actually on the Instagram post, it's a strength could be if people are naturally friendly and they like talking to people.
Yeah, if they're outgoing, sure.
If they're outgoing. Yeah. This actually is a bit of a strength. Mm-hmm. And of course, all these things that we're saying, it's for each person individually to assess themselves on that. Yeah. So if people are naturally chatty or want to chat to people, some people are quite reticent with new people. Yeah. And that's not really a big strength when it comes to learning a language.
No, and I think there's that, and there's also the other thing is that people are, when they're adults, they're a little bit resistant to make mistakes, and in fact, the only way you can learn is by making mistakes.
Absolutely.
And accept and embrace the mistakes that you make. But a lot of people won't actually speak because they're worried that they're going to make mistakes, or they have a silly accent, or whatever. This
is a definite weakness, isn't it? If you think like that,
it is. Yeah. And it can also become a threat, because you can't move forward.
Yeah. And what about the actual need to learn English? Because some people say, I want to learn English, for holidays or this. But when they have a real need, does this become a strength?
I don't think it really becomes a strength, but
Like a real sort of motivation for them.
Well, it depends on the person, because some people need it, for example, for their jobs.
Yes.
But they may not want it. And they could have been sort of escaping from, if we're talking about English, for example, they could have been escaping it up until now in their career, but they've come to a sort of an impasse where they have to use it. So it doesn't really become a strength.
Yes.
Not really.
Yeah.
It doesn't help. I mean, to learn a language, you've got to be very motivated.
Sure.
And to be motivated, you need a reason to do it.
Yes.
And so somebody that says, I want it because I want to travel, may be stronger than someone who needs it for their job.
Yes, yes.
But it depends as well.
Okay, so that's some strengths, some weaknesses. Before we move on to opportunities, do you want to add anything else on that? Strengths or weaknesses?
Not really.
No?
I mean,
Okay.
I think you've sort of hit the nail on the head with the fact that, it's almost a personality thing, is that if people are, extrovert, if they're outgoing, then they're more likely. And also you need people that are able to take risks.
Yes.
To actually try stuff out and then, see how it works.
Yes,
did the person understand them? Did they enjoy it or whatever?
Yeah. I mean, I think when you said about mistakes, that is really the key, isn't it? If people are anxious about mistakes or they panic if they can't remember a word, this is definitely a weakness in their approach. Okay, what about?
I think just another thing.
Yes.
Sorry, but a strength can be as well, like in terms of motivation, is actually wanting to do it, but wanting to do it in a sustainable way.
Sure.
If you're sort of trying to improve your English, for example, as a second language or other language, if you're not sort of daily doing something, then you can. I always think there's a real sort of parallel with sport. If you want to run a marathon, you don't just turn up, to run 42 kilometers or whatever. You have to train to do it, and you have to train virtually daily. Okay, you have rest days and stuff like that. But I always think that, and I always come back to this, is my magic solution is 20 minutes a day.
Yeah.
Every single day.
I agree with it. Now, I always say to my learners, sort of, if you think about sort of Usain Bolt, he doesn't start practicing like a month before the Olympics.
Although
he's been doing it for 4 years.
Although I did tell you that when I was in Cardiff recently to watch the rugby, I saw just a couple of hours before the match Finn Russell in a bar.
Yes.
Yeah. Now, I didn't see him with a drink. Okay.
He was probably just walking
just in
there.
case his bosses. But he was going around, he was shaking hands with people, and he looked so relaxed.
Well,
but
Anyway, we'll come to that in a different podcast.
We will.
Okay, let's move on to language. In a language SWOT, opportunities.
Opportunities. Okay. Well, the opportunities.
This is usually the third kind of square on the graphic. That
so the opportunity is one of the external forces again. So the opportunities could be moving on in their job if they're learning it for their job. This could also be a threat that if they don't move on, but we won't go to threats for the moment because it's often the opposite quadrant of opportunities. Opportunities could be many things as well. If you look at anywhere on YouTube or wherever, and you look at the sort of advantages of learning another language, well, opportunities can also be in terms of people's brains. It tends to slow down Alzheimer's. It helps people to remember things better because you're working bits of your brain that you don't work otherwise. So that can be an opportunity as well. It can also be an opportunity to meet other people. It can be an opportunity to travel. Basically, it opens a whole new world when you start speaking another language.
And I think as well, an opportunity, if you like, to enjoy more movies in English. You get to hear the real voice of the actors rather than someone dubbing over.
Absolutely, yeah.
It's all, and I'd say opportunity like that, it's really enjoyment.
Yeah, exactly.
It can open up
but
a bit more
I think that's
enjoyment.
one of the keys is if you can't enjoy the learning, then you're not going to go very far.
No, of course not.
Yeah.
Okay, so are you ready for threats then?
Yeah.
Okay. What are the threats?
The threats are that you lose your motivation for whatever reason because you think that you can move on faster than you can. That you start realizing that the language. I always say with English, for example, English is very easy to learn as a language, especially if you compare it with Spanish and French and whatever, and German, I would guess. But it's a very hard language to master. So you can do the basics. You can get to a decent level of English without having too much of a high level. But when you want to go past that, it can be really, really difficult because, we've got things like different accents. We've got the slang, which happens in many languages. But I feel that it's a little bit more accentuated in English. If you take Australians or Geordies or Irish or South Africans or whatever, there's a huge, huge difference. And, even parts of the UK, you go from city to city, the accents can be difficult. Sorry, what we were working on? Threats, is it? Yeah, threats. So threats can be losing the motivation because you feel that you should be moving faster than you actually are. I think you need to take a step back and to think that, a language is, it's a huge thing, and it's basically a change of life. You need to be listening every day or doing something in a language every day. Not everybody's prepared to do that. Those that are really start enjoying it. A threat could be that if you're learning for your job and you don't get to a certain level, you might not keep your job or be able to move on in your job. What can be another threat?
Well, I've got a threat here that people think that they don't have, because a threat is an external difficulty, let's say. And I'm going to say maybe somebody in their family, they might think, I don't have enough time. I'm really busy. I've got the rest of
Well, let me
my...
knock that one on the head straight away.
I knew you were going to say that.
I'm going to have to knock that one on the head.
I knew you were going to say that.
Everybody has time to do it.
But people often say, especially I'm going to say women, because they have a more bigger role, maybe
Let's
for
not get
children.
sexist.
No. But they say, haven't got time.
Of course they have.
So you're going to tell me that's
wrong.
I
mean, what you have to do is you need to translate what they're saying. And what they're saying is, I don't want to make the time.
Yeah.
Because everybody has time. If you want to do anything, basically anything you want to do, you'll make the time. If you don't enjoy it, then you won't make the time. And therefore, you'll come up with the sort of excuse that you don't have time. You can fit it in. If I'm talking about 20 minutes a day, it can be 10 minutes in the morning, it can be 10 minutes in the evening. If somebody says they haven't got that, then sorry, I ain't going to believe them.
Yes, I agree.
You're saying that you don't want to do it, and that's fair enough. Yeah. But, say what you really mean.
Yes, that's it. Any more threats, or have we covered it there?
What could a threat be? A threat could be, well, no. I
think we've basically covered it.
Yeah.
So just wanted to say to everybody, thank you very much.
Did we do weaknesses?
We've done weaknesses
and
at the beginning. Yes,
okay.
yeah. What were we saying about memory, Chris? Anyway, there we go. Anyway, just to say to everybody, thank you very much for clicking onto Instagram. It gives us a bit of a view on what really interests you. And this was a very successful Instagram post. And here we've gone into more depth on it.
Yeah,
so.
And I think it's good to sit down with a bit of paper and, do your strengths and whatever. And often it's quite good if you have somebody that can reflect it with you, because very often people underestimate themselves, especially in strengths. Not so much in weaknesses. They can find loads of those, but they often can't find the strengths and the opportunities. There you go. So sit down, have a think about it, and it may help you to enhance or, in fact, to build some good objectives for yourself of language learning. Like, for example, you don't need to go to language lessons on YouTube, because if, for example, you're looking at the past, ways of expressing the past, then you could also go on to something that could be quite enjoyable, which is music. Yeah,
Absolutely.
Just think of different ways that you can use, your learning in a way that you actually enjoy, and then you will never come up with the excuse that you don't have the time, because it's ridiculous anyway.
Yes, well, I hope everyone enjoyed that anyway. Okay, thanks, Chris.
Thank you.